I started my business in January 2023, and it's taken me about a year and a quarter to realize how much I was wounded and how much I am healing. I really believe that building a business is a spiritual journey and that the greatest limitation in your business is always going to be yourself. And so it took me a year and a quarter to realize that every product I've ever built was actually for myself. I started with a little bit of scarcity mindset. And I really believed that I wasn't going to go hire coaches and consultants for my own business. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to break that mindset. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to find the right coach for me. I spent a lot of money on things that were not really helpful for me because I didn't realize what I was really trying to get at. And so I started building a couple of things, doing whatever felt like it worked, accidentally building 3 different products and essentially 3 different businesses before I was like, okay, hold on a second. This is not working. This is not right. And I sat down and looked at each of those products and I realized there is a core thread. There's 2 core threads. One of them is me, and the second one is what I do well. The core thread that was me is that every single product I've made has been for myself. And the logic and emotion is who I am. So I started recognizing that the coaching that I do is really emotional, and the consulting that I do is really around logical. And at the end of the day, I have to do both of these things so that I can make a decision that's aligned with who I am and therefore actually execute and grow in my business. If you've ever sat down and said, hey, I want to do something, I want to start a business, I want to go on this vacation, and you're sitting there and there's so many thoughts and ideas and you're on Google and you're researching, you're in logic land, right? Trying to find an answer somewhere. And what I realized is that what I often do is I hide behind the logic. The logic is the reason why I can't make this decision. I need more information. I need to know when these flights are. I need to know when flights could be cheaper. I'm doing all of this research because I'm actually having an emotional reaction underneath all of that. That's scary, that I'm not ready for, that I think that if I get more information, that emotional decision will be easier for me. In the world of consulting, what I love doing is using all of those numbers. I call it assumptions. So I would assume that a flight is this expensive. I would assume that my conference ticket is this expensive. And I put all of those together and I go, okay, here's how much I spend. I assume I bring in this many clients. And I go, all right, is that reasonable? And once I have all of my assumptions down, I look at the logic on the paper in front of me and I go, oh, this is really an emotional question of, do I think I'm going to bring in that many clients? And when I can remove all of the logic and say, I have all of that in front of me, I've already answered those questions, I already have the numbers, then I get to look at the really hard question, which is, what do I truly believe? What do I truly want? And how much of a leap of faith am I willing to take in myself to go bet on my success? Consulting is actually a little bit more straightforward, right? Sometimes the answer is I'm going to go make a pitch deck. I'm going to create a valuation. I'm going to prepare to go sell my business, or I'm going to go prepare to go get a loan for my business. And I need to talk about why my business is going to make that much more money. All of those are logical stories that can be told. The coaching space is a little bit more complex. And so I started building for something in this space. And I'm going to be really vulnerable again for a moment and say, after working with Z, I have on more than one occasion said, what am I doing? Why am I building a coaching business when someone like that already exists? I've genuinely had that conversation with myself before. And so what I realized is there's something inside me that's still begging to come out, that I can honor it and I can start building. And realistically, I will probably end up with something that's very different than what Z has, because at the end of the day, each human is unique. And when I started building, I realized there were a couple numbers that came to me because we're constantly pretending like our businesses are doing fantastically when we might not even have 100K of revenue, let alone profit. And that's a really scary thing to think about. But 86% of businesses do not have 100K in profit. And it's even lower for women-owned businesses. And when I finally started understanding this, I was like, okay, let's be very real for a moment. What would I do for someone who's under 100K and make that their, like how they get to over 100K in their business? And I actually came back with the number 250. 250K is easy. And I don't believe this yet. I'm here with everyone in the sub 100K. Like, how do I make life easy for me world? I'm living with you. I built this product for me. Because what it came down to is I sat down with myself and I said, okay, there's 5 things. If I had these 5 things, I would believe that it is very easy to sell my product. In fact, it would be so easy that I could go hire a team and train them to sell these things because these are the core 5 elements that are hard. These are the 5 things that the founder, that the business owner has to go figure out. A salesperson cannot change these 5 things. So what are these magical 5 things, right? The first one is the right customer. And that's because your customer, your product, and your price are all super tightly interwoven into each other. Your salespeople don't get to change your customer. They might get to reach out to other people, but they're not changing your branding and your messaging. They don't change your product and they don't change your price. Those 3 things have to come from the business owner. And so when you're building these 3 things, different customers want different products and are willing to pay different prices for them. We can change everything. The whole world is our oyster. But that also means it's a little overwhelming sometimes to know exactly what to do in those 3 areas. Okay, I think this is the customer I'm going to work with. This is the price I'm going to test. This is the product I'm going to use. And then someone says, where are you going to do marketing? What's your channel? And you're like, oh, okay, one more thing for me to do. No problem. I can do everything, right? What message are you going to test in that channel? All of a sudden, the whole tower falls down. There's just so many things moving all at once. The first thing that I will say is, this is normal. This is what a lot of people go through. And finding a community as beautiful as this one, where you can be very open and honest about it and say, I need a little bit of help. These are the 3 things I'm testing right now. Where would you suggest I test this channel? How would you resonate with this message? Can you give me some feedback so that instead of losing a potential customer, I get a fellow sister to tell me how they feel about my customer, product, price, message, and channel? That would be really helpful, right? Large companies test this because they have millions of customers and they believe that if they lose a customer now, they can always get them later. But they're also very aware that A/B testing costs them money. We don't yet have the ability to do that as small businesses. And so I want to talk a little bit about my gives here. I want to offer a lot of help to everyone who's chosen to show up today in the room. I also want to offer a lot of help to a bunch of people who aren't here. To me, I was once asked, what is the hair on fire problem you solve for your customer? And I was like, oh my God, I don't want early entrepreneurs to have their hair on fire. Let's not have a hair on fire problem. And I realized I don't feel like I have one. I feel like I'm fine. I feel like I'm growing. So it's okay, whatever my business is doing. The hair on fire problem is that I could be doing a lot better. The hair on fire problem is the mental health that I have as I go through my personal journey. And for some people, this is not a problem. It's a vitamin, not a painkiller. I think the main reason people view this as a vitamin is because we're afraid of how much it would cost to go engage a coach for any of this. I know when I build for myself, that's the scarcity mindset that I came from. In fact, the item that I think is most helpful is a set of worksheets that helps people say, okay, this is my business. And so really, it's a set of worksheets that takes those 5 pillars, customer, product, price. It imbues it with your go-to-market strategy, your channels, and your message. And it says, if this is my business, I genuinely think I can make this much money. If you reach out to me, I'll drop my email in the chat. I will send you those worksheets. And if you send them back to me completed, I will comp you a strategy session that I normally charge $350 for. And I will sit down with you and I will go through those worksheets with you and essentially build a very light revenue model that says, here's the logic in my business. So that once we have it all down on paper, we can sit down and have the very real conversation. If we can put it down on paper and know it exists, the only gap between that and reality is you.